Hello, good evening to you. Happy Halloween. I hope you've had a good day. I hope you've had a lovely Monday. It's been a lot going on today. There's been a lot in the news. There's been a lot of the streets are talking, I would say. I'll get to that in a few minutes. Of course, I'm referring to Hannah Hampton, what's going on in the news there. Some interesting things going around, which I feel we should touch on. But I really want to do a bit on Hope Powell because she stepped down as Brighton manager. Now, I actually was going to do a video and a review last night. Somebody commented on the comments of last night's video, like, oh, this is so annoying, it's becoming an Arsenal channel. It's not just becoming an Arsenal channel. I spend a lot of time at Arsenal, so and they're the team who I would like to win the league, etc. So sorry if that annoys you, but that's just where we're at. But I do have obviously a lot of interest for Aston Villa as well, so we're going to talk about them in a second, and naturally Chelsea. But Brighton are a team that should be performing better than what they have been. I like Brighton. They had a few decent players last season. I suppose they've had a bit of an interesting summer transfer window. They've lost some of their key players. And Hope Powell's touched on that today with her stepping back as Brighton manager. I believe there was a lot of investment from the club to build a new facility for the women there. There's a bit of a budget. They brought in some new players. But something is fundamentally wrong. Hope Powell is a very, very good coach, but why hasn't she been able to sort things out this window? I even think the likes of May Letizia leaving Brighton and going to Manchester United has been a bad result, obviously, for Brighton. But yeah, it's a shame to see a manager, I think, in women's football still get the sack. It happens all the time in the men's game. Not that we can compare the both, but I think they've got such a tough job. You know, their budgets wouldn't be nearly what they should be. They're still working with different, levels and standards, and their jobs aren't as simple as just managing games. They've probably a lot of politics to look after as well. And I think Hope Powell has served women's football incredibly. She's an icon. She's a legend. She's represented at the highest level, and now she's coached at the highest level as well. And I feel particularly sorry for her because I remember she'd done an interview last season about how she just cannot fail at this. She can't fail as manager here. She has this idea and plan in her head and such an ambition to get there. And unfortunately, she hasn't got there with Brighton. And last night I didn't do the video, but with the result against Spurs at the weekend at home at their stadium, to lose by 8 goals to Spurs, to actually completely crumble the way they did, is more of the issue. And to have lost 4 out of 5 games so far this season isn't good enough, especially when the pressure is on, especially when eyes are watching, especially when the game's going the way it is, and especially when you've got a side like Brighton and players that they do have as well. They should be performing better. She's been in charge of Brighton for 5 years. The best campaign she had was last season. They finished, I think, in 6th. It was 6th last season, wasn't it? I've written it down, yeah, 6th. And it's funny, I'd interviewed her last season as well because I'd covered Women's Football Weekly for Faye Carruthers on TalkSport 2 when Faye'd gone off to have her baby boy. And one of the guests on the show that I had for the full show was Hope Powell. I remember thinking, this is pretty cool. At that point, she was going into the break. She was going into the Christmas break, I want to say top of the league. Or was she 3rd? Anyway, she was there or thereabouts. She was definitely in Champions League football. And it was just a nice chat. They were in a good position. Obviously teams around them had a couple of games in hand, but I wanted it for her. You were in, and even though I think I'd focused heavily on Chelsea that night, she was like, "Are you a Chelsea fan?" I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm a floater, and if you end up in the Champions League, I'll be a Brighton fan." And we had a good laugh about that. So it's sad to see. In a statement, Hope said, "As a club, we've made a lot of progress, but I feel now is the right time to step aside and let a new manager take over." So Hope Powell has stepped down from Brighton as manager after the 8-0 defeat against Spurs at the weekend. Who steps in? I do wonder. Will Hope get another job? Yeah, she's been about this game long enough. She's got enough experience, yeah. She deserves another opportunity, I would say, but it'll be hard after a result like that. And who comes in after her? What's Willie Kirk doing? There are a few managers who have been in there and thereabouts that maybe we'll see. Brighton's a big move. Brighton, like we say, has got budgets. It's doing all the right things. It's definitely starting to move women's football the way it should be going. So it's a big job for somebody. It's a big job for Hope Powell. It's a big job for anybody. But we'll see how that goes. I also want to focus on Chelsea as well. Chelsea 3-1 Aston Villa. Now, I mentioned there that there's been a heavily focused Arsenal channel. I'll definitely be spending a lot of time at Aston Villa, cheering them on in the second half of the season. You may know my sister, Risha Littlejohn. By the way, who's got a YouTube? You need to subscribe to her YouTube. It's lols. She plays there. She's injured at the minute, so I'm hoping to get to see more of her in the second half of the season. Yeah, 3 goals Chelsea put past Aston Villa. Rachel Daly got a goal. No massive surprise there. But definitely they weren't clinical. They weren't finishing when they could have done against Chelsea at the weekend. But the story today that seems to be developing, and I've been watching it on Sky News this evening. I saw it on Sky News when I was working earlier on. I've had a few people reaching out to me today, different members of the media looking for insight. And one thing I will say is that I don't have any information on anything, and I think it's important to say that because my sister plays at Aston Villa. Hannah Hampton plays at Aston Villa. Of course, you don't want to... I don't know what's going on, but there's reports going around that Hannah Hampton was dropped from the England squad by Sarina Wiegman for poor attitude. And Sarina had left her out of the squad post the Euros to focus on herself. And she had some issues with herself that she should be sorting out instead of travelling with the country for more games. That's what's happened there when it comes to England. On the weekend, Hannah Hampton was available. Carla Ward was asked what happened and why she was left out of the squad. Carla Ward said that something had happened. She was available, but we found it in the best interest of the squad that Hannah didn't travel and stayed home instead. But much to the surprise of the staff and players and the media, Hannah Hampton went to the game at King's Meadow on Sunday and then posted on her Instagram up the Villa and come on team. So she went to support her team against Chelsea but was asked to stay at home and left out of the squad. So that's raised a few eyebrows and a lot of people starting to wonder what is going on there. Why has Hannah been dropped from England? Why has Hannah been left out of the Villa squad when she's available? What exactly is going on? Exactly, I do not know, but everybody is starting to talk about it. One thing I will say is that I've heard before that Sarina Wiegman has a no tolerance approach to anybody who is not fully focused. And I am speaking to Sarina Wiegman tomorrow for TalkSport, and I'll be interested to see if she has anything to say about the matter as well. But an interesting wee weekend, An interesting weekend of results and sad news for Hope Powell and curious tales of Hannah Hampton as well. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We're getting there. We're getting so close to the magic 3. Have a happy Halloween and thank you for watching and good night.